the most brutal factory accidents that were caught on camera. Imagine this. You are standing on the factory floor. The air is thick with the smell of grease, ozone, and burning metal. The ground beneath your feet is vibrating from the roar of heavy machinery that weighs more than your entire house. You are just trying to fix a simple jam in the gears to finish your shift and go home to your family. But in a split second, a loose piece of clothing turns you from a human being into a red mist sprayed across the ceiling. If you have ever complained about your boring office job, get ready to feel grateful because today we are clocking into the deadliest shifts in human history. Let's begin. We are starting this list in the Saint Laurent borough of Montreal, Canada. This is you. It is August 8th, 2016, and you are a 56-year-old veteran employee at a massive plastic recycling facility. Your job is simple. You feed the machine, and the machine eats. Specifically, you are working with an industrial roller, a colossal contraption designed with one purpose in mind: to take solid, hard plastic materials and crush them into submission with thousands of pounds of torque. The rhythm of the factory is hypnotic. Clock in, crush and churn, go to sleep, repeat. But today, that rhythm is about to be broken by a simple, fatal mistake. Around 12:15 p.m., you notice a piece of plastic jammed in the rollers. Now, protocol says you should probably shut down the entire line, lock out the machine, and spend 20 minutes fixing it safely. But you are a dedicated worker. You don't want to slow down production. You figure you can just reach in, grab the plastic, and be back to work in 2 seconds. So you climb up the ladder and reach your hand towards the intake. The thing about industrial rollers is that they don't have nerve endings, they don't feel pity, and they certainly don't stop just because they encounter something soft, like flesh and bone. As you reach for the plastic, the rollers pinch the tip of your finger. At this moment, your brain barely has time to register the pain before the physics of the situation takes over. The friction of the rollers catches your skin, and instantly your hand is no longer your own. It belongs to the machine. You scream, trying to yank your arm back, but the torque of the machine is relentless. It drags you in. First, your knuckles pop. Then, your wrist snaps like a dry twig. Within a split second, your entire arm is pulled into the gears, effectively crushing every bone from your fingertips to your shoulder. But unfortunately, the machine is hungry, and it isn't done with you yet. The rollers continue to rotate, dragging your head and your chest into the intake. Now, here is where the true body horror sets in. The gap between these rollers is set to exactly 4.7 inches. Look at your chest right now. Your rib cage is significantly thicker than 4 inches. But the machine does not care. It forces your skull and your torso into that 4.7 inches gap, compressing your body with such immense pressure that you are essentially being flattened like a tube of toothpaste. Your coworkers rush over to hit the emergency stop, but it is too late. Your body is deeply jammed in a space no bigger than a clenched fist. And here is the part that will keep you up at night. You didn't die instantly. When they finally reversed the machine and pulled you out, you were still alive. You felt your body being turned into a two-dimensional object. Emergency responders rushed you to the hospital, but your internal organs were pulverized beyond any hope of repair. You were literally flattened into a human sticker, and you succumbed to your injuries shortly after. As horrific as that slow, crushing death was, at least you had a moment to realize what was happening. But in our next entry, the workers didn't even have time to blink before they were taken out by something moving faster than the speed of sound. Let's go to Texas. The air is thick with the smell of fresh-cut pine and the overwhelming heat of a humid afternoon in East Texas. It is just after noon at the Whitworth sawmill, and you are frustrated. You and 3 other men are locked in a sweaty, angry struggle with a massive wood chip machine that has decided to jam. In a factory, time is money, and a jammed machine is hemorrhaging cash by the second. So, you and the boys decide to use a little bit of brute force to solve the problem. To free the jam, the team turns to a heavy steel cable, winding it around the gears of the machine. The plan is simple: pull, adjust, and force the machine loose using the tension of the line. You start applying pressure. The cable tightens. It groans under the stress. You pull harder, stretching the steel cable out to the point where it essentially becomes a loaded weapon. You have inadvertently created a giant industrial bowstring, and it is currently pointed directly at you and your friends. Physics is a cruel mistress. When you stretch a steel cable under that much load, you are storing an ungodly amount of potential energy. It is like holding back the string of a ballista. And then, the unthinkable happens. The cable snaps. In physics, there is no hesitation. The stored energy releases instantly. The cable whips across the work area with the speed of a bullet and the force of a guillotine. You don't see it coming, you don't hear it coming until it is already over. The steel line slices through the air with deadly precision, striking all 5 men in the vicinity at once. The impact is catastrophic. 4 of the 5 men are decapitated instantly. It happens so fast that their bodies don't even realize they are dead yet. For a split second, the floor is silent, and the headless bodies of your coworkers remain standing upright in their positions, frozen in time, with a crucial detail missing. Then gravity takes over. The ground becomes littered with helmets, sawdust, and bodies. There was a 5th man, however. He got lucky, if you can call it that. The whip of the cable threw him to the side, shattering the bones in his leg, but sparing his life. He lays there in the sawdust, screaming, looking at the 4 men he was just joking around with a minute ago, who are now reduced to biological debris. When EMTs arrived at the scene, there was nothing to do but treat the broken leg and call the coroner for the rest. That snapping cable was a freak accident, a terrifying example of what happens when physics decides to punch back. But while those men died because a machine failed, our next victim died because of a much simpler, more fatal flaw: human curiosity. And unlike the clean, instant cut of a steel wire, this next machine doesn't just kill you. It grabs you, spins you, and turns your entire existence into a literal red spray paint for the factory walls. Trust me, you are never going to look at a spinning object the same way again. Let's go to Russia. If you have ever spent time on the dark side of the internet, you might have heard of the Russian lathe incident. It is the kind of video that haunts you forever. In a cold, cavernous factory in Russia, a surveillance camera is silently recording. In the center of the frame sits a massive horizontal lathe. For the uninitiated, a lathe is basically a giant engine that spins a heavy metal cylinder at blinding speeds so you can carve it. It is a machine built with enough torque to twist a solid steel bar into a pretzel. A worker walks into the frame. He looks bored. He is just going through the motions. He notices something off, not with the machine itself, but above it. He squints, stepping closer to the roaring, spinning cylinder. He looks up. There is a leak dripping from the ceiling. He is annoyed. He is probably thinking about how he has to go get a bucket or a rag. He is relieved that he found the issue, but in his moment of distraction, he forgets the golden rule of the factory floor: respect the rotation. He leans in to check the leak, and the cuff of his jacket, just a loose piece of fabric, brushes against the spinning shaft. Friction is instantaneous. The machine grabs the fabric, and because you are just a fleshy sack of water and calcium, you do not stand a chance against industrial torque. In a fraction of a heartbeat, the man is yanked off his feet. He is not just pulled in, he is whipped around the cylinder. The human body is not designed to rotate at hundreds of revolutions per minute. The centrifugal force exerted on his body is so immense that physics essentially gives up on holding him together. He looks like a rag doll in the grip of a hurricane. First, his shoes fly off, a grim detail that internet commenters always points out. But then it gets worse. As he is slammed repeatedly between the spinning cylinder and the machine's base, his body literally disintegrates. The force strips the flesh from his bones and sprays it across the room. Within seconds, he is no longer a person. He is a fine, pink mist suspended in the air. The camera captures it all in brutal, unfiltered silence. The machine keeps spinning, indifferent to the fact that it is now coated in what used to be a human being. Moments later, a coworker in full protective gear walks in. He stops. He freezes. He sees the red trails painted on the walls, the shredded remains on the floor, and the empty shoes. He throws his hands up in pure, defeated frustration. There is no CPR for this. There is no ambulance. You just call the janitor. This is why safety regulations exist. They are written in blood. Loose clothing around rotating machinery is a death sentence signed by physics. But while the lathe took a few seconds to turn a man into a memory, our final entry is even faster. It doesn't shred you, it erases you. We are heading to Illinois to face a heat so intense it doesn't just burn, it obliterates. Welcome to the Forbidden Soup. We have seen bodies flattened, decapitated, and shredded. But for our final and most horrific entry, we are heading to the Caterpillar Mapleton Foundry in Illinois, where death doesn't just leave a mess, it leaves nothing at all. In this facility, molten iron is melted at nearly 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that into perspective, that is significantly hotter than fresh lava erupting from a volcano. At these temperatures, human flesh doesn't just burn, it is obliterated instantly. This is you. It is June 2nd, and you are a 39-year-old man working his 5th day at a new job. You are still learning the ropes, still figuring out where the break room is, and probably still nervous about the roaring vats of liquid death surrounding you. Your task is simple but terrifying. Retrieve a sample of molten iron for testing. You spin down the giant metal wheel, pouring the glowing, forbidden soup out of the vat. You lean over the boiling iron to get your sample. You are careful. You are cautious. But in a factory, gravity only needs you to slip once. Unluckily, you trip on the staging deck. You lose your footing and you fall backwards. But you don't hit the floor. You fall partially into the molten vat of iron. This isn't like falling into water. You don't sink and swim. The moment your body touches the 2,600 degree liquid, the water inside your cells instantly flashes into steam. You are not drowning. You are exploding from the inside out. You try to pull yourself out, but it is impossible. Half of your body is on the steel deck, and the other half is submerged in the roaring orange abyss. In an instant, the lower half of your existence is simply erased from the timeline. Witnesses described the scene as beyond comprehension. When emergency crews arrived, there was nothing to save. The coroner could only retrieve the part of you that remained on the deck. The foundry shut down immediately, and investigations were launched into how a man with only 5 days of experience was placed so close to the most dangerous pit in the building. But for you, the questions didn't matter. You were gone before your brain could even register the heat. It is a stark reminder that in these environments, safety isn't just a guideline, it is the only thing keeping you from becoming smoke. Life is delicate. It can be here 1 second and gone the next. Whether it is a spinning lathe, a snapping cable, or a vat of molten iron, the world is filled with things that do not care about your hopes, your dreams, or your new job. So tell your parents, siblings, and friends you love them. Be grateful for the safety of your boring day, because at least you aren't part of the forbidden soup. So, if you want to learn more about the dark reality of the world we live in, or just want to see more videos that will make you question everything, hit that subscribe button.